In other news, the group of 7 trade ministers are meeting in Paris to seek common ground on securing supplies of critical minerals and rare earths. Fresh US tariff threats against European Union-made cars, however, risk straining unity within the group. Washington is looking to increase levies to 25% from 15%, accusing the EU of not complying with a trade deal agreed last year. And for more, Ross Cullen is covering the developments for CNA live from Paris. Ross, G7 trade ministers met earlier to discuss securing the critical mineral supply chain. What are some of the key outcomes from those talks?
Yeah, Angela, that's one of the key issues for the G7 ministers. They're looking at industrial overcapacity. They're looking at possible reforms to the World Trade Organization. They are specifically looking at over-reliance on China for raw materials, for rare earths and for critical minerals. And they're looking at possibly setting up some kind of secretariat or overall governing body within the G7, likely headquartered here, potentially working alongside the OECD in Paris or the International Energy Agency also in Paris, to try to have a central area where they can come together to discuss how to reduce that reliance on China when it comes to those minerals that particularly European countries need. European leaders like Emmanuel Macron want the products that Europe needs to come from Europe, ideally, especially when it comes to critical minerals. And we have seen, for example, a rare earths recycling plant being developed in the south of France as one of those points where they're trying to develop and reduce that reliance on China. But understandably, overshadowing all of this, those talk about tariffs. The President of the United States saying that the tariff on the automotive sector for the European Union going up to 25% from the 15% it was when the two sides agreed their trade deal in 2025. The US Trade Representative Jameson Greer has been here for those talks with his other counterparts, but certainly nervousness because Germany, Italy and France are all big players in the automotive sector. They are all members of the G7 and they are all members of the EU.
Yeah, and on the topic of tariffs, the EU trade chief met the US trade representative yesterday amid those rising tariff tensions. Did those talks yield any concrete outcomes?
Yeah, busy day for Maros Šefčovič. Day 2 of the G7 talks today, Angela. Later on today, he'll be heading to Brussels for an evening session to discuss about trying to move forward with the US-EU trade deal. He has had talks with the British trade representative. He's had talks with Jameson Greer, the US trade representative. Very clear position from the EU trade representative, Maros Šefčovič, that there should be no change. 15% was the tariff level agreed in 2025. 15% should be the tariff as it is staying going forward, not an increase to 25% as announced by the US president. And they want to see the Turnberry Agreement, named after the golf course in Scotland where Donald Trump agreed that trade deal with Ursula von der Leyen in 2025 and summer last year. The EU trade delegation want to see that agreement respected by the United States, but Washington says Brussels hasn't respected it, hence why there needs to be a change to the tariff level. Angela?
Ross, thank you so much for that update. That was Ross Cullen for CNA live from Paris.